Alright, so the first thing is open up a browser. And let's just start with GitHub first. So with the GitHub, let's go to the GitHub page. And actually, let's do a search for GitHub Windows. Oh, good. It's the very first one. So windows.github.com. There you go. And this is the software that I recommend. It's going to make things a lot easier. GitHub by itself has several things that are not Windows user friendly. Its backend is really based on Linux command lines. You have to really be familiar and used to using command lines, and then fortunately they've created a tool that's available on Vista 7 and 8. If you have XP, uh, get a new machine because XP is outdated by, I mean, like literally end of life already. It's more than a decade old. But you're going to click this, it's going to download a little package, and then you're going to open it up, and let me show you what it looks like. Come on, GitHub Windows, where are you at? I know I was moving some stuff around in case I wanted to install things. I want to say this is it. Now on my machine I actually have like regular GitHub and GitHub Windows and stuff. So I'm trying to find the correct one. Alright, yeah, this is the correct one. So once you actually have it installed, you're going to see something like this the first time you open it. Now you notice on the left hand side it has a PA Core piece, and that's really because good, I'm just making sure I'm in the right program. Really because that's where I've already pulled a repository. So basically, a repository on GitHub is a collection of source material for the program. Now, what it does not include is anything that we call or add to it that's external. Um, so we'll talk about that when we talk about setting up our environment. But just remember that the repository is not holding other people's source code. So if we use other people's source code, such as we're going to use Craft Buckets and Buckets API, those are actually other people's sources. So we are going to import them, add them to our program, and we're going to use their cult. And when we compile it, which I know we're using all these terms, that compile is nothing more than the fancy word for taking your program and making it usable to other people. Um, but the key thing to understand here is that when you see the screen, you're going to need to do a couple things. And actually, we're going to probably cover that in another section, but understand, like, I'll give you an example. So when I go up here to plus, I'm like already logged in. I know it's gonna be like F signs because I'm already like typing a letter, but I'm gonna go through this. Maybe I should turn off. Nah, I don't want that. But the one thing to keep in mind is I want to select a clone. So once we talk about how you're going to get to the GitHub, because when you install this, you don't like have connected to my repository. We're going to show you where the public repository is that I've created for GitHub, and then we're going to do that all connecting later. Probably tomorrow or next Wednesday, we'll actually go through and say, okay, so we've created the repository. Here's where it's at. Here's the URL. I just want to make sure you guys understand the key thing to this is you want to clone it. You can see that I'm already logged in, and you can see that there's some repositories that I have. The ones that have little locks on it, they're actually private repositories, and we're going to create a public one later. But you want to clone the repository, and then we'll talk about how we get my login and not my login, but how we get access to a public repository that I will create for you guys. All right. So get Windows, which is windows.github.com, and you want to download this program and then install it. Now, one little thing to say: when I did install it the first time, it was it kept not downloading, like the website was boggered up or something. Um, so don't be surprised if you have a problem with it. Like, I don't know why, but I've already had problems with the windows.github website more than once. Just like downloading it and stuff. Okay, so once you have the GitHub, which is how we're going to sync with each other, let me actually remove this. Sorry, I'm like going through. There we go. Okay, so so that's the first part. We want to have windows.github.com. We want to download the little application, and we want to have that available to us, which is on this web page right here. It's like the only thing, so it's pretty easy to find. Once we have that, let me bring up the browser back up. Once we have that, we're going to need to download a couple more things. The second thing we're going to need to download is a program called Eclipse. Now you can see that eclipse.org is the website. Very hard to find, and you can immediately go for downloads. Now they've just added support for Java 8, so I don't think that the other stuff has support for Java 8 right now. The one you're gonna want, if you just are gonna do Java, or I'm sorry, Minecraft plugins, the only thing you're gonna do is Minecraft plugins. Then the only one you need is Eclipse IDE for Java EE developers. Okay. If you were to do other things like I do, then you might want to go for the Eclipse Standard, and then you're going to download all these individual packages and add them to the program to add those extra features. But I mean, it literally has Eclipse for PHP developers, and maybe I'm just lazy, or maybe I need to like look at that. But I don't do any of my stuff there. I use Notepad++, which is what we're going to use in a second. We're going to get that program also. And I just don't have that need. Now, for Android development, I did have to Eclipse Standard 4.4, and I had to go through a bunch of processes to get the other stuff. But for just what we need, all you're going to do is plug in programming, Just download this, and download the one that's appropriate for your not your OS, even though it says Windows 32-bit or Windows 64-bit, but really think about which Java you have installed. Most people install just the 32-bit Java, and so you won't even have 64-bit Java. And so if you install this, it's going to look for the 64-bit Java prior to looking for the 32-bit, and it may not be compatible. And the same goes for the other way. If I download this one and I only have 64-bit Java, I might have a problem. Alright, so clearly we got this, and we're going to download it. And when you download it, it's going to download into a little folder, like a zip, and all you're going to need to do, in fact, I'm going to download this just to set it up, so you guys can see what we're setting up and how we're doing it. Because this is a key part. You can see it's populating down here. So let's give that 1 second, and my dog is being weird, so I'm going to take a little micro boomy break. Let me get my boomy break window up. Where is he at? Alright, I'll be right back while this downloads. Okay, I'm back. And we can see that it's downloaded now. So there now, when we did the GitHub for Windows, it installs it like a program. However, Eclipse does not install like a program. It's simply, let's show you. You can see I have a bunch of stuff. Now I want to put this in a particular folder. And it's important that we actually. It's important that, let me just do it this way. It's important to note that where we put this should be something that we can remember, because we're literally going to have to go to this exact folder in order to extract out or in order to use the program. Sorry, I literally could not figure out what I could not figure out which one I should do there. I just recently reformatted a bunch of drives and like restructured how my computer has drives and stuff. So my E drive is normally my E drive is normally jeez. There we go. An E drive is normally my Steam games folder, but for the purposes of this, we're just kind of like lump it in there. Let's see here. Hey, Backbeard. Normally I would turn my camera on this, but I literally was like cleaning and stuff right before, so I'm like all dirty and gross. I don't want people to see me. Don't see the dirt! Let me add a new window to look at. Alright, so for the purpose of today, I have disabled my stupid push to talk. Or, yeah, be fearsome dog. Alright, so this will make it faster if you can have to press a button and keep having all these weird things crop up. Alright, so let me add this window. We're going to call this one my Eclipse drive. Yes, that's what I want to look at. And then let's move it over here. Make it all big so people can see it. Oh, too big. There we go. That's close enough, I think. Alright. So, on this drive, I've extracted it to a folder called Eclipse. And inside, there's a file called eclipse.exe. Now, if you were to do this at this exact moment, you would probably get a JDE error. Okay, what is JDE? Well, it's Java Development Environment, which is different than what you use for plain Minecraft, which is the Java Runtime Environment. Now, I'm sure everyone's gone to, at least once in their life, the Java website, clicked on download, and clicked this. This gives you the JRE. Okay. Once again, the Java Runtime Environment. Basically, it's like the OS engine that runs Java programs. However, we want the JDK. So the easiest way to do it is actually be like Java JDK. Now I said JDE, which is the Java Development Environment. JDK is Java Development Kit. Alright. And when we do the kit, we want 7. Only because literally next week I might be like, you guys can do 8 now. But I am not sure that Bucket and CraftBucket, which is the APIs we're going to be using, is ready for Java 8 yet. And early on, like if you think back like a year ago when 6 was switching to 7, if you were programming then, it would be the same problem, except I already know for a fact that there would have been problems if you had downloaded 7. So once again, you want to use the latest one. You want to accept the license. You then want to download the one for your operating system. In my case, it's Windows And remember how I talked about the OS you have? If you do that 32-bit, it's i586, or the 64, which is the x64. If I had downloaded the 32-bit and then I wanted to run the program, I might have some issues because I'm using a 32-bit version of Java with the 64-bit version of Eclipse, and they do have to match because they are building and compiling based on the JDK's versioning. Now, there is also something else I want to show you. You could download and keep yourself managed this way. Or, let me see if I'm spelling it right. It's probably not nanite, it's probably like ninite or something like that. Let's see here. I kind of cheat. I use this program, which is free for everyone to use, manually. Where is it? It's like ninite or nanite. But what it's going to help me do is it's going to help me keep up to date on these packages so that I'm not having to update them myself and go to all these places, because it can actually get a little cumbersome sometime to do that. Where the hell is it? I cannot see it here. I must have moved it somewhere. Let me see where I moved it. If I don't find it in like 2 seconds, we're going to move on. Oh, wait. It is... Oh, it's Ninite, like I thought. Ninite. Okay, so you can use this for more than just Java. But basically the way this works... Let me make sure everyone can see it. Yep, everyone can see it. Oh, actually you can't because that screen is covering it. There we go. Alright, so I've gone to the website... Ninite, Ninite.com, and on the website you have a bunch of choices down here, so you can select all of these things you want to do. Now remember runtimes, that's JRE. See how it says JRE after the Java runtime environment, JRE. Now this is also not necessarily going to be the most up to date, because they update almost as soon as it does, but not immediately after. So you can actually keep and select several of these and manage them through this process, so you always keep up to date. Now, if you do the free version, like here, then you would select the ones you want, your antiviruses, you can even see here JDK. So we could literally just select Java and JDK. Although I will tell you, the JDK does include a runtime, and if we were to go look at my program files right now, we would actually see that I have installed a JRE and a JDK, even though for myself, I only installed the JDK. It just installed the JRE automatically. But if we wanted to, we can select both of these, and if you mouse over, you can see which version they're using. So they're using 67. So here's how you read it: Java Development Kit version 7. That's the first number. Update. That's what the U stands for. 67, and technically it's update 67-B01, but most people don't get that into detail, because you can see here from here JDK 7 update 67. But if you had downloaded it like a week ago, you might have found that it wasn't the same file. So they've updated it since then, and then just kind of updated it here. I never liked that idea, but they do it that way anyway. So from the Nanite website, you can actually see that you can select multiple programs, and all you need to do to run it is it's going to download a little application called nanite.exe. Actually, it's going to be whatever you call it. I think we call git installer. Oh no, it auto names it. So it called it Nanite JDK Java installer.exe. I have renamed it to be like Nanite and the date of what I ran it as. so I can know where it was at. And I put it in a place that is in my private folders that's always backed up. And actually, I use this on all my computers. Now you can see here, there's a Nanite Pro. The Pro version will automatically update for you. Okay, but if you're doing the manual version, the free version, you just literally need to click the Nanite EXE, and it will always update. So the one that I downloaded today, 3 months from now, if I run it, it's going to update the same software, but the latest version of the software. And that is one very easy way to keep your JDK up to date. But one thing to the warning is that if you update your JDK, it may update too far, or it may update to a point where it breaks something. So I wouldn't do it every day, but I do it frequently, especially when I'm thinking about doing a new version. Like usually what I do is when I see that Bucket or CraftBucket have introduced a new, more stable version, that's when I update my JDK, and I'll test it out and make sure it's working, and then I'll move on with installing all the components. Excuse me there. Alright, so we've gone over GitHub for Windows, which is how we're going to collaborate. We've talked about Eclipse, which is how you're going to program. We talked about the JDK and the JRE, which is required to program. And we've talked about Nanite in order to keep that up to date. Now, once we have these pieces done, we're going to need to actually run the Eclipse. So let me bring back the screen. Okay. And if you now clicked Eclipse, oh, it still has it. Notice that it's like trying to load the JNIVE shared library for a System32 variable. Let me see here. You normally wouldn't have to do this, but I got some weird stuff on my machine. Why did it open in that? Let's fix that later. Oh, well, let's get Notepad+, because that's one thing we're definitely going to need. And I believe Notepad+ was one of the options here, by the way. Just as an FYI, you don't need the latest version, but I did see Notepad+ here somewhere. There it is. It's in Developer Tools. What a shocker. If you want to grab an... Oh, you can also grab Eclipse. I don't recommend grabbing Eclipse from this menu, by the way, just because Eclipse will try to install it somewhere here, and it's also not going to be the one that we did. It's going to be like that standard version. And then if you really want to, you might need FileZilla later on, because as we start talking about web stuff, FileZilla is what we're going to use to FTP, file transfer, things from our desktop to the server and back and forth. But once you have Notepad+, which you can also get by going to Notepad+, I know Googling's really hard, and once again, it's super easy. Click download, and boom, there's the latest one. You want to use the installer. Obviously, you could use the other ones, but why would you? Now, you can see that some of the stuff is using 7Z's format. Once again, 7Z is over here in the compression. It will replace your WinRAR and stuff like that. Yeah. But it will replace things like WinRAR, which cost money. PZip, I don't even remember if it costs anymore. 7-Zip is 100% free. And it does all the stuff that WinRAR would do, plus it deals with 7-zips. There's no such thing as a pzip. There is things called a RAR file. It's a type of compression, just like a zip. And 7-zip does all that. So just use it. It's way better. And unlike WinRAR, which you're basically cheating your licensing with, you're not going to have the cheating and stuff. Once you have it, then you can use it to open up all the things. It's really good for a couple things, but I would say the two most notable features you're going to have right now is, one, it has tabs, which is really nice. Let me get this up so you can see what my screen looks like. Add window. I should just add this monitor. So whenever I'm looking at this monitor, yeah, let's just do that. For today, we're going to be looking at the monitor. I feel like that's so dangerous. Let's do monitor 1. Yeah, I know. And let's edit. I don't know. It looks worse in the window capture. Alright, let's remove that. Let's just go back to me adding them individually. Alright, so we're screwing this back up. Oh, it looks the same. It was just the program that made it look all weird. Alright, so here's what we got. We got multiple tabs. Don't worry about what these things are. Let me close these other ones out. I don't want to get you guys confused. The Eclipse INI is what we opened in Notepad Plus from our previous screen. And it's got some factors and variables in here. One thing to note is that it's using 1.6. If it said 7 or 8, what it means is 1.7 or 1.8. So that's the first thing, is it's looking for that. The second thing is I want to make sure that notice that it's launching a 32-bit. I don't know why it's launching a 32-bit. Maybe I made a mistake when I downloaded it. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is this right here. The required Java version being, it's looking for version 6, and we have version 7. I don't know why they're outdated by that much. But let's try it again. I've saved it, which is right there. Let me switch back over. It is still not there. Let me save some time and figure out. I'm just going to look at my actual working environment, because I already fixed this issue once. I do remember that. Ba-ba-doom, ba-ba-doom. Alright. Programming, Eclipse. Edit. Oh, I wonder if that's the issue. It may be because I put it in a weird drive and my versioning check is not looking at what I was doing. But let me check one more thing in my version. Oh, you know what? I take it back. In this screen, we actually can see where I'm highlighting x86 underscore 64. That's actually a combination of both those. Even though it says Win32 right here, it's a Win32 launcher that loads 64-bit compliant objects. Alright, so let's just skip ahead, because once I'm moving my stuff around and having my environment a little bit weird. If you did this normally, you would be able to get it loading right now. I take that back. You may still have a problem, and I remember what I did to fix that problem now. Damn it, I'm starting to load Eclipse from my other program. And then I looked at the folder and I was like, oh yeah, duh. Alright, so when I set mine up, because my environment's a little bit different than most people's, I actually had to add a JRE folder into my thing. So in the JRE folder, once again, Java Runtime, it's normally going to look for your system's default, but because I'm doing Android development and all these other things, you won't probably, in fact, Backbeard just said, yeah, it looks fine here. You won't have these issues. Because I'm retarded and stupid and have to do 1,000 different programs, I have a different problem. If you have this problem at this point, you would go back to the Java Runtime Environment page, you would download the source and get a JRE folder because you want the bin in the library, or you could actually go to your own installation of it. If you have this problem, just send me a message. I'm not going to spend too much time in there. I'm literally just going to insta-fix it on my side. Let me go to the folder drive that I was doing everything in, because I do want to keep this environment separate. And you can see there's no JRE here, but I'm gonna copy the JRE from my other one. I'm gonna close this Eclipse version. And thank you, Backbeard, for saying it looked fine. I totally forgot that I have like this weird setup because I do Android stuff, and so my Java runtime is like whacked out. Alright, so now that I have it in here, you do the same thing. Ooh, this one's all new and fancy. It's the new version, Luna. I might even try Eclipse 8 later, or Java 8 later, and see how it works out. Alright, so let me get this up. Add a new window capture. We'll call this one Eclipse. And there it is. Let's bring it over. Of course. Let me remove that because it only added. There we go. I wanted to show the window pop up. There's like 4 of them. Great. Oh, that's that screen? Uh-huh. And let's try this one. Let's just remove this and redo it. Eclipse. There. No. Let's try the second one. Let's try the third one. Alright, I can't get this pop up. Oh, wait. Maybe I can try this different one. There we go. There was one more left. Okay, so in the pop-up, and the pop-up's so important because it actually defines what we're going to do for pretty much everything else in the entire thing. So the pop-up that pops up is for, I want to get this on the back screen so you guys can. All right, good, and I'll expand this out. All right, so if I were to set, this is like the default location. Your user, your login name, and then the workspace. Wherever you define this, this is where Eclipse is going to read from and write to as you do changes. So if you remember, I created a special spot for this. If you want, you can use the default location. It really depends on yours, but I can't because I already have other weird things going on. So, So I'm going to have to, and you can't even sleep. Ah, damn it. We're just going to go do it for monitor capture. Monitor capture. Monitor 1. Yeah. Great. Alright, let me screen this up. Alright, so we're looking at this workspace directory folder right here. Nay, no problem, Backbeard. As soon as I'm done with this session, I'm actually going to put it up for YouTube so you can watch on YouTube. And I'll highlight it also on Twitch. So this directory right here is where we're going to do. Remember, we created an Eclipse folder. I'm actually going to create a new folder here. I'm going to call it Workspace. And then we'll go OK. Now, if you click this, use this as default, do not ask again, it literally will save it as an option, and you will never see it again. I often keep this unselected because I switch in and out so much. But if you are only doing this and then you've got your, especially if you're using a default location or something, or a place that you're not going to forget, then do it. Because sometimes you're going to have to go back to where your workspace is, and there is ways to change it. But honestly, it's so much easier just to change right here when the thing loads the program. But if you don't select this box, it will load it every single, or it will prompt you every single time. Otherwise, it just automatically loads it. So let's click OK. And it's going to load. Alright, so we got this other stuff in here. I'm gonna delete these, remove this, remove this. I'm just like cleaning up my stream. Remove this, remove this. Alright, I think that's all the stuff I was adding first. Alright, this is a pretty standard initial view. Now, how much time is it? This is 2 to 5, so we're good. Okay. So now the next thing is to see if you wanted to switch your workspace, you could do it through here, and you could do it this way. But generally that adds a workspace, not change it. So let's just go ahead and create something new initially, because we'll talk about how to get the GitHub in and add it in 1 second. But when we're doing stuff, especially if you want to play around and get your own, you just want to make sure you create a Java program, and that's all it requires. So we can create like a project, and because I didn't see Java in there, and then you just click Java project, boom. I know we're doing a plugin, and if we were doing 1.8, 1.8 is, yeah, let's just keep it 7. I just don't want Java 8 to be a problem, and we can call this plugin test. Ignore this. This is just adding a new perspective, which is a perspective is a way to look at the data. And so as soon as it opens it, it should open it. I don't know why it didn't load it. That was so weird that it like did not load normally. Oh, there it goes. It was just like being weird. Alright, so I actually opened up ClassPath, so ignore that screen. So what we got here is we got the Java, we got our source folder, which is completely empty, and we got this. Now, when we are using GitHub, GitHub's going to be very similar. We're going to clone. Let me actually go through and do that really fast. So github.com. I'm using my other monitor so you guys can't see my login. And I am going to create a new repository. The repository is going to be public, and we're going to call this, we're just going to call this plugin test for today. Starting next week, after we get past this initial setup stuff, is when we'll actually go through. Now, in this, it gives me a URL to set up, and that is the information I'll be sharing out to you guys. So then we go to, come on, there you are, GitHub. Alright. Come on. And you actually see that in mine it's already popped up. So let's go to options. You can see that I have an account set up. It's already been configured, blah, blah, blah. But, we can scan for repositories that are on my hard drive already. If we had like already added and we forgot it. Otherwise, you just want to, let me see here. Why is it, 1 second. Alright. So what we'll give you is we'll actually give you a URL, because you have to do it a little bit different. I don't know why. That's the wrong browser. There's our browser. Alright, so here is the GitHub. You actually can like go here, and you'll actually be able to see which ones are public for you guys. And then from here you can actually, this is the manual. You can see like, oh, you can right here and you can like push and you can pull. Once we get it set up in your Windows, it's going to become a lot easier. Um, okay. Blah blah blah. The request is from GitHub Windows. So it does make it easier using. Okay, so once you go there, and then we go launch application, it's going to open up my GitHub Windows program, which is already open. Please tell me. Oh, it's there. It goes, and then it's going to ask me where I want to save it. So let's once again go to our workspace. I don't want to confuse the muddy waters, so we're going to delete this one. Alright, and then we're going to click OK. Now, because I'm like literally logged in as the master account, it's going to be a little bit different. But what I should have now, let's see if we get it set up properly. There we go. Workspace. Remember, I deleted it. Now it's different because now it's got a Git. Okay, so now we actually can go out of options, and you should be able to see a plugin test now on this main page because you've now cloned it into here. Okay, and then literally all we need to do, because it's blank, that's why there's nothing in there. Like, we have just literally created an empty repository. So once we've got it in there, now we just got to go back to, this doesn't exist anymore, so if we refresh it, it should error out. There we go. And then we delete it. Okie dokie pokey. And we kind of repeat that process. So for now, we're going to like open a file. We're going to open the hooks. Actually, no, you know what? I guess some of the stuff I have to like do part of your thing. New Java project. Okay. I just want to make sure it opened. Yeah, it did. Okay. So let's say you did a change like I just did. You can see that all these are uncommitted changes, and these are things that you would be set. Now, I'm the master of it. I own this particular repository, um, aka plugin, so I have more access than you guys do. But one of the things you guys would want to do is you would want to commit your changes. So like the summary would be initial setup, whatever you're doing. Oh, I'm fixing such and such bug. I'm fixing this retarded component, whatever it is. So initial setup, and then if you want to add a description, this is a test, not a real plugin. Please see the tutorial. Blah blah blah. Okay, and then it's all the files that I'm adding. In this case, you gotta understand that I'm basically adding everything, and I'm committing it to the master. Boom. So now it's gonna be in there, and I want to click publish. Or actually, I think one of the options in here is you could like if you wanted to like create your own fork. A fork is a ability to take the same existing code and create your own repository so that you can then change it any way that you want, and you're no longer bound by my limitations. And you guys see now it's got like this new thing, which is sync instead of publish. This is what you should normally see. So you would actually sync it. It's going to go all the way up across here, and it should now actually have it in there. So let's just quickly take a look. View on GitHub. of course, it opens up my thing from the major point. Alright, I will get the rest of the setup for you guys. This is literally the setup. So now that you have, and it's different. If you notice, when it's done through GitHub, it is literally a different view. It tells you that it's whatever you called it, right? And then, or whatever it's being called, and then it tells which repository it's part of. And that's the key. So, you know what? Actually, there is two more components in here we got to cover really fast. So the first component that we need to cover, that we have not actually talked about yet, is the external stuff. So first we need to get them. Remember we talked that we're going to be using the Bukkit and CraftBukkit APIs. So let me get the window that you guys can see. And we're going to do the first one. So CraftBukkit. And the website is dl.bukkit.org. And you can see at the top of the page here, let me make sure you guys can see it. Yep. There's a CraftBukkit and a Bukkit. There's also a ChatBukkit, ScrapBukkit, and HomeBukkit. Don't worry about any of those. Just focus on, of course I clicked them all and now it's being really slow, for CraftBukkit. Now, normally, I would say do the beta build or the recommended build as part of your deployment. But in this particular situation, because of the vast amount of changes that are in R03, which is the UUID update, and the 1.710 update, which adds even more stuff, we are going to be building off the development builds. So we want to, this is going to give us our latest one, but the latest one, you can't really see the dates on here, but literally if we come back in an hour, there may be a new development build. Or we might come back in a month and only see one new development build. The most recent of this one is August 4th. So it's already been 2 days since the last development build was updated for CraftBukkit. Usually, CraftBukkit and Bukkit are updated simultaneously. Before, 2 or 3 patches ago, like 1.6 something, you only needed CraftBukkit. And in fact, if you look at the documentation, you only ever needed CraftBukkit. However, because of some of the workarounds that the CraftBukkit Bukkit API has done for calling certain things, we've been doing the Bukkit and CraftBukkit to fix those issues. Since this is a brand new plugin, I'm going to take a chance, and we're only going to do CraftBukkit. But just keep in mind, if we ever need to, we're going to come back here, grab this one, and we're going to do the exact same process. It is totally the same, no matter what you do. So we're going to go show in folder. It's on my other screen, of course it is. And my mouse is being weird again. There's the mouse sound. It's very sad. I wonder why the USB is being all weird. Anyway, it's back to working. And we are, so when we downloaded it, I'll just show you real fast. I don't even need any of this crud. Anyway, you can see it right here, and literally all we're going to do is, here is our folder that we were working from. I can do it. I prefer to add it to the workspace, because that way if I have multiple plugins, they are already calling it there. But if you were to be doing more stuff, you could add it within this folder line. You could add it to another space. For example, let me see what my actual... See, I do it this way. Eclipse is my workspace folder. Where the PA Core is like the other plugin. You can see that because I use multiples. There's ones in here. Now, in our old one, Vault, Grief Prevention, CraftBukkit, Bukkit, they were all being used. PA Core is actually where I would export. So this is actually a version of PA Core, a real working version. A real live boy. But all I need to do is then literally drag this over. I'm not even going to do copy and paste because I don't care about it being in my downloads folder. But because I have now split it off to a separate drive, as some people may know, that means it copies it, not moves it. I've also created this as a dynamic disk, so it treats it a little bit differently than a basic blah 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 Smurf. I don't want to confuse you guys. Just ignore what I said. Anyway, I've done this in a way that it retains copies. So everything in here is auto copied, which is different than your machine. If you normally drag something over, it would move it, not copy it. So once I have it in here, I'm going to bring back up Eclipse, and we are going to go to build path. We are going to configure our build path. And we're going to go to projects. I'm sorry, libraries, I mean. I did not say the other word. And we're going to click add external jar. Jar is what we create. Java pretty much runs, if it's .jar, just like .text, txt, or .doc, like a Word document, jar is the equivalent. It's a file path type, but it's specifically for, it's like a Java program. And really what we are doing when we create these plugins is we're creating mini programs. They're programs that require other things to function, but what we're doing right now, we could actually create a self-sustaining Java program. And maybe later we'll actually talk about it, maybe do some of those pieces. But for what we've got today, add external jar. We're going to go to the spot we want. We can select anywhere. That's the great part of it. And we're just going to click OK. And you'll be able to see that it's like saved the location of where it's at, and it's got the whole file name and everything. And we just click OK. That is all we had to do. And by doing that, it's going to add this new folder called Reference Libraries. Notice that it's kind of telling us with this greater than sign that there is now something to push. So it's good. And it will actually have a reference library in here. So if we went back to our GitHub window, we'll be able to see, oh look, there's uncommitted change. Now notice the uncommitted change. It is not the jar file. We have not added the jar file. Okay, we are simply in a folder. In a folder called class path. If we open this up, okay, we would see that a line has been added to class path. That is all. In fact, that's what it's saying. It has a green line with a plus next to it that is indicating what has been changed for this commitment. And then we sync it. And now, if you guys were to download it for the first time, you automatically have this change. Oh, you know, it wants a summary. So added, actually, let me cheat a little bit. Whoops. And then we can go sync. Because it's got to have something that, see now, commit to master one file to be committed. Perfect. And now it's done. So it's now got to commit. And now it's unsynced. So now we can sync it. So you got to commit it and then sync it. Commit it and then sync it. I did it backwards a second ago. And now it should be actually trying to add all that stuff. And actually, if we go back to here, and we can actually see the commitments. They're right there. We can actually, and that's part of the collaboration, is that This allows us, and you can see what was the last change made. Now, if you've ever looked at these, you'll see a bunch of them. Now, let me see here. I think I have access to my the little lock means it's there. So you can see here, when I first set up the PA core, I haven't actually done the update because I wanted to keep this fresh because I knew these changes were the 1.7s were gonna like be a big problem, and it is a big problem. Um, but literally just initial upload was all I did to kind of preserve it. And so it tells you the overall plug product was updated less than a minute ago. If we click on it, we can see that the class path was updated 2 minutes ago, and it was added part of this. So each individual change for each individual file is going to be met, and because you don't have access to it, it's going to come in as a straight uh, request. So, like, you can actually come in here to issues, and you can actually create an issue, and we can track the issue. So we're going to do a lot of the tracking for the plugin through here, and then there's labels and all this other stuff. Now, if you were not part of that, there would actually be a option on my screen. Sorry, I just wanted to always add that stuff before I forget. Even though this is not going to be, we're going to create a new one next week that's going to be totally different. Or I'm going to create one and stuff. But there would actually be, let me see if there's, let me think here. Because I knew that they had one. So I wanted to kind of show what the difference would be looked like. So one branch, remember we talked about forking? Well, each branch that we like manage our own, like let's say we reached a point where we were like, oh, so we want to have a plugin, and we've created this base plugin, but now we want to have one for the vanilla server, and then we want to create a modified server version. There would actually be two branches of the same plugin, or we could create two separate plugins. There's also, look at this over here, these pull requests. Okay, so people have come in, and this is what I kind of hoping everyone else to do. People would come in here, and you describe the issue, you talk about it, and this one's kind of detailed because, you know, once again, these people want you to be very detailed. I don't need to be as nitpicky about it, but it really would be a way for you guys to be like, hey, I found a solution for the problem, and here's what I think you guys should do. And also, it fixes this issue on this other thing right here. Okay? And that's kind of how we're going to track these fundamental bugs, issues, requests, things like that. Because we already have this, I'm already paying for it, and it works perfectly. It's not as good as Jira in some ways, but I don't need to recreate Jira. Later on, we might not use this at all, except for the collaboration part. Let me just go back to ours. And if that ever occurred, then on our own website we would manage things. But because of this part, and this is kind of what we're doing right now, I didn't want to like mess with the issue, because you guys can report issues so easy. You could literally just be like, no code. The plugin has no source code. Question mark. And I can actually modify this in some ways, I think. You cannot assign it to people and stuff like that. And then that would be an open issue, and I can then assign it to people, and like people, or I can, you know, obviously it's gonna be assigned to me at first, but now we have an issue reported on it, and there is no source code, by the way. So let's just go look at one last piece, and that is the source. So let's say we're ready to code something. We go into new, and we're going to create a class, because we want to create a project. Actually, we're going to create a package first. So we've already created a project. They're kind of in the order you kind of create them, and that's nice. And the project is plugin test. We got to create a package, and the naming convention of the package that is really whatever you want it to be. But for for Minecraft plugins, they ask that they be formatted a certain way in the naming of their packages. And this is really for when they get submissions, and we're never going to submit ours, so we didn't have to do it this way, but the method is such a good method that I just want to keep with it. So it's a reversed URL, essentially. So it's going to be com.co.kotc dot, and then the actual name. So in this case, plugin test. There we go. I can't. I remember that we can't have dashes in package names. Can we have underscores? Yes, we can have underscores. So I probably should have done this plugin underscore test. But really, how many plugins do you ever see that have dashes or underscores in them? Like, usually have spaces, and I think, yeah, if you had a space, we would represent it like that anyway. So let's just go finish, and then it creates this, and it's empty. And that's why it's got this empty square, and there's nothing in it. So now we're going to create a class inside of it. I'm going past this really fast because we're going to be talking about this so much as we go through the pieces. I'm going to explain all the subsections, but a package is a container. A class is a here's how I want you guys to think about it. For most prospective usage, like in the most easy way to think of it, if we had a box, right? And you've probably had this multiple times. Like if you ever ordered like something in bulk, like there's like, oh, I'm ordering a pack of 4 of something. Well, they're going at the shipping center. They're gonna take those 4. That's the items that you bought, and we're gonna call them widgets. So you bought 4 widgets, and that is the equivalency of your class. You bought 4 classes, 4 widgets. Okay, and then inside of there, they're going to be packaged, like for shipping. You're going to put those 4 classes inside the packaging box, and then you're going to seal the packaging box and send it away. And that's all we're doing. So we've created this, and now this is the thing that actually does something. The class is the actual widget that we want. The package is just the outer container. So let's call this one. In most cases, you call the first one in a plugin the thing itself. So plugin test. And you don't need to do the co.koc because it's already listed as part of that. It already knows it's part of this folder line. So all we have to do is add it in here. And now we actually have our very first class. And this is the first building block. Now I am going to, it's 3:30. This is going pretty fast. So we got time for a couple more pieces. So I am literally, oh, there's my mouse again. I'm literally going to bring up our window again because there is a plugin tutorial, and most of it is outdated in little ways, and it doesn't count because we're doing it through GitHub, and the tutorial doesn't cover things in GitHub. Plugin tutorial bucket. There we go. All right. And basically, it goes in here, the Java, they talk about setting up your workspace, all this stuff. Actually, it has been updated now. I haven't noticed that they updated it a little bit. They updated it for what's called a Maven project. Oh, and they do have a GitHub stuff in here now. Okay, okay. So, a Maven is basically what we're doing, except there are some little differences. Let's just keep going this way. If we want to switch it over to a Maven, which is more of a collaborative style, we might later on. Most of this, yeah, I talk about creating a package and then create a plugin. It's been so long since I've even looked through stuff. I just wanted, all right. So like, I'm so glad it's still here. All right. So once you get down to here, this is when it's all specific to literally, like you can see the first quarter of it. We've already covered. So if you were to come down here, the plugin, creating the plugin YML, because we're going to use YAML, YAML files on a regular basis. There also needs to be a couple things. So all it is a new file. Let's just do this part. It's like create plugin YML, and it has these variables, but you're supposed to like put in the stuff in the brackets. So let's create that file. New file. It's literally just a file. Okay, and it's literally, one thing to note is when we're dealing with YAML files, we cannot do tabs, only spaces. So that is an error right there. If we did tab, and it like has a little bracket to the side, so it's bad. No tabs. It's spaces. Actually, I guess that's just showing there's a space at the beginning. That must be one of the new features of the thing they just added, because they used to not show that when there were spaces involved. And you can see the three required things: name, and the name is going to be whatever we call it. So this one's going to be plugin test, and let's just do it like that, because I don't want to mess with space. I've never done spaces in there. I don't want to play around that there's a problem. Main, this is the first file, first class package that you're going to be able to look at. You see that it says the package name and the class name. So we actually need both of those. Oops, wrong thing. Alright, so we actually need, why did I open that up? We actually need the package name, which is co.kotc.plugin test, and then we also need to go dot the class name, and our class name is plugin test. But it didn't have to be. Like we could have called this plugin and then called this test. Generally, you'll often see in the main repeat of the same last dots, because usually the way it works out is this is your domain that you're working from, and then this is your plugin name, and then this is your primary class, which you also name after your package. That's a standard, not a requirement. As you can see, they don't require that. Version literally means nothing else but version. So in this case, we are going to use a versioning mechanic. The first digit is going to be a major release, so we're on version 0. Then the next one is going to be the the sub step. So we're going to create, like, let's say we're going to have some goals. Version 1.0.0, we want to have land management complete. Okay, there's a lot of components in there, sub steps. So before we get there, we're going to be like 0.0.0. That is literally the first plugin version. We're on 0.0.0 because we've done nothing. As we fix bugs, we're going to increase this number. 2, 3, 12, 123. It doesn't really matter. Like, whatever it is. Once we get bugs taken care of and we have like the first working initial shell of what we need, it's going to be 1.0. Okay? And what that says is that it's not a full working version of the land management system, but it has at least one of the sub-steps that we've identified. And on the web page, if you remember, we talked about some of those sub-steps. So each of those sub-steps is going to mean one of these. And we may encounter during the time that we're doing this that there's additional sub-steps that we didn't anticipate, or because of other features that we want to add, that number will increase. And once again, this could be number 1, 2, 3, 123. Doesn't matter. And so it could be, and this could be there because we could be on version 1, the subset of 123. Like we got 123 of the features in there, and then we're on bug fix 3. And that's how we control our versioning. It's major release, features of the major release, and 3. So let's say after we get the land management system, we call that version 101, and we start working on the next one. Well, we're working on version 2, and maybe that is environmental variables or something. And so we've created 3 or 4 of them right now. So we're on 1.4, and we've had a couple bugs that we had to fix for version 4, or for version 1.4. Because here's the thing. Let's say we're on 1.4.9, and we're like, great, we have finished the next sub feature. Well, the next sub feature starts out 1.5.0. It doesn't matter if it was 1.4.0 before, or 4.123, or 99999. It doesn't matter if we had 20,000 bugs to fix. Okay? As soon as we get the new sub feature in, it becomes 0 at the end. Same thing with the major release. If we are at 1.50 and we fix it, and we're ready to release the second version, we go 2.0.0. We always start, whenever the largest number is upgraded in front, the other numbers come zeros, because we're starting a new version series. And that's how we're going to manage our versioning. So when you look at the version, you'll be able to quickly see what's our major release version that we're on, what is the sub version release that we're on, in other words, what features are done towards the new version, and then what is the number of bugs that we fixed in that subversion release. I hope that's not too complicated. Literally for today, we're on 0.0.0. I know some people would be like, well, what shouldn't it be 0.0.1? Makes sense, this is like our first thing. No. In IT, and this is something that is very, very important in programming, we always count from 0. I cannot think of an example where in programming we start at 1. The first number is 0. Okay? So 0 is a number, and we count it as such. So even though it's 0.0.0, and they're all zeros, this is actually the first release that we would have. And if we fix a bug in this release, then it would be 1. If we don't, and we like just straight out of the bat release a version, then it would be like that. That would be our next release. It would go from 000 to 010. If it was a really, really simple major release that we were doing, it could literally be version 100. But for today, we're on zeros. So we can save. And it adds it here. Once again, it tells us that it's not there. Now, let's go on to this, which is our main root plugin file. I cannot really think of another way to say it without being technical. So there's a couple things that has to occur here. Now, if you notice in the example, They immediately talk about on enable and on disable, but they literally have gone over. Oh no, they did right here. They actually talked about this. So I'm trying to think of the best way to go through this. That's very simple. Public means it's available to all of the components in here. Okay, so as we go through and create additional packages, additional classes, if it's public, it will be potentially available to them all, depending upon how we structure it. But the idea is that public is, as it says, public. Now, they say put final in there, and we're going to do that. But final literally means that there is no undefined variables. Variables have been statically assigned. Actions are statically created. Now, when I say statically created, it doesn't mean that I can't have new variables in there. So, for example, I can have a function, which we will talk about probably in the next session in more detail, but a function is like an action. Okay, so we would have, and sometimes they call these functions in Java. I think we call them methods, but in other programs we might call them functions. It really depends on what language you're coding in. That's going to determine what it's called. So let's say we create a method. Okay, and a method is an action event, and so we would say, for this action event, we're going to check to see if they're on the one I'm making up in my head. We're going to see if they're available to, if they're standing on someone else's property, okay, when they're digging, okay. So we would just do a check called get land or get property, and we would use that method constantly. And it doesn't have to be final, because we're going to insert variables where the user's at, but all the stuff that's being defined is in its final state. Okay, we're not going to modify the code effectively. That's such a bad way to describe this, but I hope it, in a nutshell, without being technical at all, makes it in there. Class is literally, remember we talked about packages and classes. This is a package, this is a class. We've already defined that we're in the package up here, and this is a class, and the class is called plugin test. So when we call plugin test class, we're calling this file and all the details in there. And then the last part in here is extends Java plugin. Now, extends means that it takes this that we've already defined, and it says that, hey, this is an extension of a Java plugin. There's other types of things that can go in here, and we might use some of those later, but extending, it's kind of inversed. Okay? This is an extension of this, which means that anything that's in here, we can call in here as if it was already there. It's a way of including all the data here into our class. And this particular one, in the very first file that we create, which is what we call our main, is required. Now, you just saw the thing pop up for our next thing. You notice that it's red. That's the great thing about Eclipse. It tells us when there's something that we forgot to do. Okay. However, it also can lead us down the wrong path, because it's not 100% accurate all the time, especially when you're dealing with an API that doesn't include. If the API has a mistake, then we're going to see mistakes. If our syntax is different than it's expecting, we could get something in there. There's also inferred and explicit, which, as they said, we can write something where the default value is grabbed, and it's inferred that that part of the code is there, or we can explicitly say it. As we go through this, guys, I promise it'll become more understandable. The initial concepts are Sometimes easy and sometimes hard depending upon how you're looking at it and what your experience is. So let's just mouse over the red line because this can give us suggestions on ways to fix it. In this case, it gives us 3. It says, hey, you can import Java plugin from org.buget.plugin.java. And you would think, well, it's a Java plugin. Shouldn't that be like part of Java? Like, shouldn't the Java from our resource library be what called it? No. If we did not have this craft bucket in here, if we did not include it, then it wouldn't know what Java plugin was. One second, my dog is. Boomy, what do you got over there, Boomy? Boomy, what are you doing? And of course he comes over. He's like, I don't know, Daddy. I heard some noise and I scared him away. I'm a big, tough security dog. All right, enough of that. So because we have that craft bucket in there, it tells us that one of the options is import, which, remember how I said that extending this makes this include this? Well, we have to also define what this is. So the way that we do that is we import it. Because let's say later on as we go through things, we're going to actually have, as we mouse over this, we might have 3 of them in there. We might have one from Java. We might have one from CraftBucket. We might have one from Bucket when we add it if we need to. We might have one from our own plugin that is another resource. And if they have similar names, Java plugin or something like that, it will identify that and try to grab it. One thing to note is that it is case sensitive. If we had gone Java plugin, it would be a totally different thing. And now we have totally different options. Okay? First option is to create a class called Java plugin. Because it's like, I don't see it. You haven't defined it. It's not part of one of your resources, like in your craft bucket or part of the Java stuff. So do you want to create it? And if we clicked create, it would actually open a window and say, hey, let's create this. Now, option 2 is we could change to Java plugin. All it's doing is renaming it, but it's renaming it with the capitalizations because programs usually are case sensitive. Unlike Windows, in fact, Windows code includes things that makes things uncase sensitive. Like if you looked at the Windows OS, it would be a whole bunch of lines dedicated to functions, methods, actions that are done, listeners, done when you perform an action, and then it says, oh, well, it's not the case that's there. We just care about the name, non-case sensitive. Windows is an exception to this rule because if you look at Linux or if you look at Mac, which are basically the same thing, or other Unix flavors, you're going to find that pretty much the only operating system that's not case sensitive is Windows. Okay? Everyone else in the world and every other program has said, yeah, we want to be case sensitive. And they've actually created standards for when you should capitalize things and when you shouldn't. One of the good keynotes about this is that when you are having a class, you want to capitalize your classes. Like this, Java plugin. Which brings us to this. Because of the standard, when we do this next time, we would actually do it like this. Plugin test. Now, right now it makes it red because there's errors. And if we change the rename compilation, we would be changing this file to be this because we want the class that we're actually talking about to be the same name as the file. And that is simply the way that the standard works. So we could either rename it to the file name, plugin test, or we can rename the file to what we have called in here. So we would do that right here. And now we have a change because in here we now have a new thing called plugin test. If we didn't do that, like let's say we left it like this, when we went to export, the jar file can be named anything we want, by the way. So I'm just going to create it like that. But we could have called it all lower. And you notice that I'm selecting all the files in there. But I just want you guys to see jar creation failed, resources out of sync with the file system, plugin.yml. So we can't even compile it. But if I come back in here and I make this change so that the main actually exists, because remember, this is the name of the name now. This is the package name, but this is the class name. Now if we try to export it, it probably will compile. I mean, we haven't really done anything, but I can't think of anything right off the top of my head that would be like. If not, we'll see with the reason, right? Ta-da! Do you want to override it? Yes. Ah, but there's an error. Resources out of sync with the file system plugin test.plugin.yml. We'll figure out what that one is about later, but it's probably like some sort of like ending thing we haven't done. Oh, you know what? We haven't created any sort of like on enable, on disables. It could be any one of those things because we're missing several major components that's required for this function to work. Now the other thing is sometimes you can actually come in here and click refresh, and it'll actually tell you where the errors like exist if they do. Once again, we're going to just go back to sync because after we make our changes, you can see that now we have a new file, we have a new folder path. In fact, we have a new plugin.yml. So we'll just call this. We'll call this added source added. And SRC is what stands for source. Okay. And you'll notice that like in each of these dots that we created over here, it's actually a folder. And if we looked at the source folder path, it would actually add the stuff in there. Fixes, issue, I think it's like 0001, I think, if whatever it was. We would like look at it and stuff like that. So I've done that. You can see the changes in here. We're going to sync it to this branch. By default, you see up here on the left, it says master. By default, master is our own branch. If we create a new one, it would be called something else. But master is the default name for the first one you create. And then literally, if you came over here, or refreshed, well, looky there. Now we have a new source folder. And now I can come over to issues, and it is number 1. And actually could write in here source added, and we could close and comment, and boom, I can now close the issue because now we have a source added, and the issue now shows that we have zero issues existing on the program, which is not true, but that's the initial idea of how our flow is going to work and what we're going to get in there. It is now 4 o'clock, and I know we're supposed to go to 5 most of the time, but I did want to get some other stuff done today, and I need to actually prep for my wife's birthday. Anyway, it's coming up on Friday, so I have to like get some of that stuff done. And really, this is kind of the most important stuff. And you can see in here we can track our code frequencies, the traffic, the commits that we make, so people can see how active it is. We can add members. So I don't even know what punch card is. Is it like a login system? Oh, it's just like when people are doing stuff. Okay. I'm not even sure all that stuff's available to you. I think that this page right here is more along the lines. And like I said, what we've done today, we're gonna like boom, 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 knock out next time. I will say that here's a couple more pieces that are like super required. One, this on enable on disable portion. Okay. In order for Java plugin to work, we have to create a new on enable on disable. That is an absolute requirement. You cannot get behind the program without it. Um, on enable is what's going to occur when the plugin is loaded. On disable is what's going to occur when the plugin is disabled. Okay. Um, it does at override. Just ignore that at override part right now. Um, and you can see that like we can make comments by doing slashes, so we will use that a lot. Um, in here, they also talk about logging. Okay, we can add that real fast. You can see how it's been used. They really updated this. Is actually a lot better than it used to be. Before this page was almost useless. It was kind of confusing. Maybe it was just because I didn't understand what they were doing, and now I do. Um, the logger literally just creates a method to be called. Now, the way that they're doing it is pretty standard, okay? But there's a little weirdness to it. So, a couple things to note. Let's go back to this. Okay, let's just do get logger. Now, how does the system know that get logger is an available thing? How does it know that this is real? Well, it knows it because we've extended Java plugin. That is literally the reason for it. Oh, you know what? No, this element has neither an attached source nor an attached Java doc, since no Java doc could be found. Now, in here, there should be. Are you kidding? They don't tell us how to add the Java doc? Okay, well, I'm just going to tell you how to add a Java doc, okay? So up in here, we can, and I have to remember how to do this. I want to say it's build path. I want to say it's more to configure the build path. I want to say it's one of these, yep, Java doc location. We are going to, so Java doc. I feel like that was the right thing. Yeah, jd.bucket.org. And you can see there's 3 of them in here. Okay. I do not know if I have to. Let's see here. Okay. Let's go for development. Um, let's try this one out. Validate. Yes. Now, normally we wouldn't want to use dev because of the things I expressed earlier, where it's not as stable. Oh, I didn't really talk about the reasons, but it's not as stable and there's some issues with it. But now when I click and apply it, now I can go up here. I might have to refresh. It also might not have one for that. But the Java doc should add additional syntax helpers to you. So when I come in here and I press a dot, it should have an immediate list of things. Even without JavaDoc, but with JavaDoc, it should have this extra section on the side. So you can see GetLogger has so many things. You're like, how did I know? I mean, like log, and they're all so confusing. Like, which one do I use? Like, get anonymous logger. What warning? Wait, what? How do I know what to use? How do I even know to type in get logger? Well, unfortunately, get logger would be actually part of this. Get logger. Oh, you know what? Because Java is including the get logger as part of it, it's not even technically part of the API. That's the saddest part. That is really the saddest part. So like if you went in here, clicked on Java plugin, you can see all the things that has been added, and from here, GitLogger is one of them. And it tells you, returns the plugin logger associated with the server's logger. Not the plugin's logger, the server's login. The Minecraft server's logger, okay? We actually can click on this, and we can see what types of information there is. Some of these APIs have to be written. They're not automatic, okay? So the bucket API is pretty good, but just keep in mind that if you ever are building another program and you're like, oh, I'm going to use this API, you might want to check out the Java docs before you do so, okay? If we have our own API for things, and we want others to be able to program from it, we would want to create an API docs page and literally go in here. As I scroll down, I found the Git logger, and you can see that it's defined as a public, which means other things can access it. It's static, which is similar to final, but static is some restrictions as to how certain things can be returned or defined. Once again, we don't need to worry about all these front end stuff because when you first start off, I would say that was one of the most confusing parts. Like, do you call it public? Do you call it private? Do you call it static? Do you call it final? Do you not call it anything at all? The third piece right here is actually what it is. It is a logger. It's a class logger. You can see in here, class in Java util logging. So they've actually included Java utility called logging into the Bucket API. And then they've defined, like literally the name that they called their logger was GitLogger, which is why we type in GitLogger and then we add two parentheses, because the parentheses is the variable space. There are some variables, like we could literally go GitLogger and type in these things right now, but remember, we want to first, they used info, and that actually is the level. So we could call info, warnings are very common, severe I believe is another one, informational, info, and in the logs, often these will be defined by different colors. So if it's an info one, it's going to be gray. If it's a warning one, it's going to be like orange. If it's a severe, it's going to be red. If there's color available, like it's not going to color text pad, but like if you had a console to the server, like you're running on a private server, you load the command prompt and the server's running, or you're like testing something out with the plugin, which we'll talk about how to set up your own test environment later as well, when we reach that part. But info is there, and then now that we've defined info, now we put more brackets up, and all lines end with semicolon. You can see that it's red. Why is it red? It wants argument to match a string. So let's talk about some different types of things real fast. String means a series of characters. That's all it means. So we can come in here, we can just add argument. Now you notice that null is special. It comes out purple. Okay. If we went in here and we typed in null, that is also, but this is literally the word null. Whereas before, when it was purple without the quotes, it meant that there was no string. And we might later call that back. And we might be like, if get logger equals null, oops. And we gotta bracket these off. And I think this is actually needed. Alright, so it's a little weird because I don't think we can use GitLogger because it's a static variable. But what we could do is we could do something like this. We could go string fancy equals get logger info blah blah, and then we could go in here if fancy equals null. Um, I know what it's doing. All right, so boop, that's what it's missing. If fancy equals null, and that would only work if it was a purple null. Okay, because strings also have another weird behavior. Now, it also knows it cannot convert from void to string because it's static, has a void return. There's several issues. I'm showing you a bad example in some syntax reasons, but you can get some of the concepts that we're going to go into as we go through. And as we do actual examples, this shit's going to make a lot more sense. I just want to show you how to set stuff up. So, once again, get logger only exists because we have extended a Java plugin. Then we're going to set up as an info. And then, in fact, if we just take their copy and paste, we can be like, oh, wait. Is it in here? Get logger. There he is, yeah. We actually can see. So we can literally take all of this. I don't like the overrides. The override literally means that it overrides errors. Okay? There are some times where you want that so that your code is cleaner, but for the most part, no. They do it in the tutorial, which is clearly showing you how they feel about it, but it's not always right. The rest of this, nah. I'm not even seeing. The rest of it we're going to be covering as we actually do stuff. I'm just seeing if there's anything in this that I should throw out there. No, I feel like you guys should maybe glance over it and read it because there's a lot of really good things. So that's the other thing. You can do like a Maven install, and you can So that's why they're doing Mavens. And like I said, I'll consider switching over to Maven. It does make collaboration a little different, but I like the standard non-Maven setup for other reasons. So I'll think about it and we'll figure it out. It's functionally the exact same thing. Maven sounds like it's a lot more, but really it's not. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, did I just crash? Oh no, my Twitch screen went away. Okay, there it goes. Otherwise, we will discuss a lot more of this as we go into individual places. This is a fairly decent resource. The new Boston and some of these other ones have decent things to learning just basic Java, because Java syntax is what we are going to be using. I'm going to think about, we might actually switch over to Maven, just because it syncs with GitHub a little bit better. I just didn't want to confuse everyone with Maven, because pretty much no one uses Maven except when collaborating. And I kind of wanted this, even though this is for the purpose of collaboration, I didn't want to confuse anyone with it. And then, as you can see, you have to you're selecting an entirely different section. We have to install a Maven module, I want to say. I don't think Maven's even part of. Now, see, there's no Maven in there, so you would have to actually add a Maven. Let me see if Maven's in here. Oh no, it is part of the original. Okay, so we can actually add a Maven project from here. Yeah. Okay, so we might do that as part of the setup, because this is really just a test setup to give you guys an idea. And then, of course, let's do one more thing. We're going to go back to our GitHub. We're going to look at our uncommitted changes. We can see that we've added this on enable section. We commit it, and now we sync it. And I think you guys are going to have a slightly different option. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going back and forth with this Maven thing. Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard. It's basically the same thing. It's going to sync up with GitHub a little bit faster and easier. Alright. So, we'll look at doing that possibly when we set up the real plugin next time. I'll get this piece set up, but does anyone have any questions before we head out? I know there's some viewers looking at stuff. I just want to make sure. Oh no, I didn't save that. Okay, there it goes. Does anyone have any questions really fast before we head out? Because this is literally the most simplistic setup you can imagine. You have a plugin, you have your base package, you have your class. Your class has defined an extended Java plugin. You have an on enable, on disable section. We have a crash bucket add as an external library. We have a plugin YML that defines these things. Now, as we go through this, we're going to be seeing how this interacts, because we can call a variable called name, and we would get this. We can call main is generally not called because it's only really used to define, hey, where do we start? Because we could have 1,000 of these classes and packages. And in Java, it actually looks for something called main. And so if it didn't see a main and there wasn't any mechanism in there, your Java plugin wouldn't even load. Like, or not plugin, your Java program application would not even load. But in Bucket World, you actually set up a main variable and then redefine it as to what package and what class we're looking for. And you notice it doesn't say .java because it assumes all classes are .java. And then lastly, our version, which is starts off with zeros. So that's it. And I'm going to get off, and this will occur every Wednesday until we don't feel like doing it anymore. And next Wednesday will really be setting. Well, actually, all the stuff we're here is going to be recovered very briefly, and we're actually going to. I'm actually going to set up the initial plugin, probably before Wednesday. If not, if I don't have time, we'll just quickly throw it together, kind of what we did today. But I want people to see how these components are interacting, like what I do on one side, how you guys then add it to yours. And if you hadn't installed GitHub for Windows before you went to the GitHub page, you wouldn't have had that option. You would have had to do it a little bit different. You would have had to download it, and you would have had to put it somewhere. But that is all being managed by GitHub Windows, which is why we're using it. It also makes making these changes a lot easier, because otherwise you'd have to go to commit, and then you would have to you would do all these things, command line stuff. I can actually show you really fast what the base GitHub looks like, just so you can see the comparison. So generally people use either the Git shell, which looks like this. It's literally just a PowerShell. So you'd have to do all the command lines yourself. Or people use another tool which comes with a base package, which looks like this. Also, I literally just loaded the first one. Yeah, I did. Wrong one. It looks like this. So that PowerShell actually came with Git Windows. There's another one called Git GUI, which looks like this. Yeah, here we go. And it's very similar. You can go to repositories, you can click new, you can click directories, you can clone something. But as you can see, it is a little less robust. Like, it's so much easier to look on here. You can see the history. You can, like, one click changes, and you can see everything you need. That's why I highly recommend Git Windows. And it's actually made by Git, so that's why it's windows.github.com. All right, that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.